Okay, today we're going to look at cat dissection. This is a female, and she has been prepared. Her arteries and veins have been dyed with a dye to show the red arteries and the blue veins, because we're going to look at the systemic circulation. Remember, we said that there was arteries always mean it is going away from the heart. Veins always mean going to the heart. But the majority of what we're going to see, the red is going to be arteries, blues are veins. Now, we generally start with just trying to open up the thoracic cavity. And we'll get in here. By the way, if you're ever assisting someone who is doing a dissection, you never try to have your hands there to try and help, because it's very easy to get yourself cut. It is difficult to cut yourself, although it is still very possible. I have done it before. But you have what's called proprioception, so you kind of know where your hands are. If it is someone else, you might not know as much. And so it is always good practice to not try to help other people. So as I'm doing this, I just want to point out, as I'm taking apart the musculature, you can see this is areolar tissue, this little white tissue, and occasionally you'll see some longer, stronger ones here, and those are usually nerves. You'll see that the white is generally nerves. Now I'm just going to kind of go a little bit more into it right now, just to try and get some stuff out of the way. Bear with me. Again, as I'm going through, you will probably see that I drink a little too much coffee, perhaps. And why I'm not a surgeon, but anyway. You can kind of see, hopefully, as I'm pulling it through, you can see all of this areolar tissue. Now, as I kind of try to get some of this back, you'll see in here, you can see some of the nerves again as they go through. These are little nerves as they are extending out into the cutaneous. You're going to see this is going to be one of the major veins coming back from the arm. If I can get through here, you'll probably see that it connects in there. What I'm going to do right now is try to get into the thoracic cavity and start looking at some structures in there. Again, you can see all of these intercostal type nerves that are going out. And same thing on this side. Again, hopefully those show up fairly well. Now, I'm feeling for the edge of the rib cage as I'm coming down through here, because I don't want to puncture into, because I want to show you a few things. Now, as I go through here, hopefully, again, you can kind of see how thin. Now, this is one of the lateral, this is the external oblique on the cat, and you can see how thin that is. Let me see, feeling under here, get through. Now, trying to keep things in where you can see them. Actually, before I do anything, I am going to get into this little area here. All right, so on either side, you can see this is a nerve that's coming through. There's a little ganglion right there. As I kind of try to get some of this tissue out of the way. this a little bit so that we can see in here, feel. Sorry. Now this here, this is going to be the thyroid gland. You can see that there. I'm going to try to see if I can get underneath here. Again, try to get this out of the way. And there, as I'm trying to pull this up, you can see the epiglottis, as I am, that little flap back there. Oh man. All right, so this, again, so we're going to have a muscular tube in the back, which is the esophagus. I'm going to take some of this stuff off here for the trachea. The epiglottis is right up in here. All right, let me see. I believe, let me try to get some of these out of the way. Now, as I go through, I'm going to get this. This way. Cutting along the sternum. Start getting some of this. I'll get this out of the way. Again, you'll see the connective tissue that's all in here, just holding things together. Just try to get rid of some of that. And now we're going to get into some more, formaldehyde as we open up the cavity here. Now, what I'm going to do, again, a few arteries and veins there, and that dye is pretty sticky, so I'm just going to try to get the ribs out of the way here so we can start looking at some of this internal structure. So there's part of the lungs, and you can see now the cat's going to have more lobes than we do. Let me get this again out of the way. Keep them in your field of view. All right, so got it open here. These are the lungs, and like I said, the lungs are going to have a little more. He's going to have a few more lobes than we do. This is going to be the heart. We're going to see this has got the fibrous pericardium. You can see how the fibrous pericardium is attached here to the diaphragm. And we'll see the diaphragm a little better here in just a second. I don't like these small scissors. Let's go with the bigger ones. All right. I want to go back up here. Get this little piece out of the way. All right, so as we start dissecting through here, I want to start getting into, I'm going to go fairly light. I want to get in. You'll see a lot of blood vessels in here and a lot of nerves in through here as they are trying to get in and down through the thoracic cavity up to the cranium. As I start getting some of this off of here, you will be able to see the little cartilaginous rings of the trachea. I'm hoping you can see that there as it goes down. All right, so again, on the back side is the muscular part that we call the esophagus. Here is the trachea, and unfortunately, I think I clipped the epiglottis. It's right there. Let me see about getting a lot of this off of here so that you can see some of the major. Oh no, wait a minute. I still have a little ways to go. All right. So here is the area that we refer to, the cartilage that is the thyroid cartilage, right here. So if I was to try to a little bit more in here, you would see that there. All right. There is the thyroid, is the epiglottis right there. You can kind of see, looks like a little beak poking out of there. Right here. That's the epiglottis. As you swallow, that's going to close over and make sure everything goes down into the esophagus. So if I take this, you can see the cartilaginous rings here. And again, this little area right here, is the epiglottis. It's going to be the thing that closes down over the glottis to protect you. All right, so now let's look at the heart. So I'm going to try my best to make sure I keep this intact. So I'm going to start taking part of the fibrous pericardium apart. Now, as I'm doing this, hopefully you'll be able to see some of the diaphragm. The diaphragm's a very amazing muscle, and you can see the fibers as they go down through there. And then again, if I look in the back, you can see that the lungs actually extend even behind. Right? So the cat has multiple lungs. Now the fibrous pericardium is going to anchor the heart to the posterior wall, and right here you're going to see this is going to be the inferior vena cava. I'm going to cut it so that I can try to start getting into some of this. Now I'm going to obviously have primary bronchioles that are going to be leaving and going into the lungs, as well as arteries and veins, pulmonary arteries and veins going in. Now remember, in the pulmonary circuit, the arteries are carrying deoxygenated blood, where the veins are carrying oxygenated blood. I've just clipped that's the esophagus again. So I'm going to try to get most of this out so that we can try to look at the aorta and the superior vena cava. Now this doesn't look like much of a heart at this point because it's got several of the serous membranes around it, both the visceral and parietal. Parietal's the outer one. Visceral, again, is on the inside. Remember that organs in general are called viscera, so the reason that the membrane that is on the organ itself is called visceral is because organs are called viscera. Now, this again is the trachea as it's coming down. This one, in ours we have 20 little cartilaginous rings, and you can see even in here they're not complete. There's a little layer of smooth muscle just like on us, this layer right in there. I'm going to kind of pull this off. I'm I'm going to get down here, and again, it's going to come out. Now, I'm going to start trying to slowly take this fibrous pericardium off. Now, as we start doing this, one of the things you're going to start noticing is arteries are going to be hard to see until we take all of the connective tissue off of it. Arteries, because they have a much thicker three tunics, like this, you can kind of see it's not real clear that it's red until it gets that outer part taken off. Again, this is the aorta. We'll see it a little better here in a minute, but you can't see it until it is, let me try to get this, until you get that tunic kind of taken off of it. Then you can kind of see that the artery is underneath there, right? And it's simply because it has such a thick three tunics, especially that tunica media. Now again, I'm going to kind of try and take this and just kind of make a little bit of an incision so I can start the process of getting. Now these membranes are fairly tough. I mean, even like you say, even a scalpel has a little bit of a hard time getting into it. So just trying to make a little hole so we can start taking that off. I think I finally had a little breakthrough there. So what I'm doing right now, trying to get this parietal pericardium off. Remember, parietal is the outer covering. The word parietal generally means cavity. That's why the two largest bones in the cranial cavity are called parietal bones because of that. There we go, get some of that. Now, this will, it should take off. Sorry. A large part of this. Now what I'm going to do is I pull this off, you'll see that it is one continuous membrane as well. It goes in and covers the arteries and veins. As I'm trying to pull it off of here, you'll see that it comes off of all of them. Now there's going to be a lot of nerves, obviously, and arteries and veins coming and going in this area because of the fact that it's the heart. Now, if I took and pointed here, you will see, I'll try to get this off of there. This is the brachial trunk here, and this is going to be the right and left pulmonary arteries. Remember, arteries in the pulmonary circuit are going to be blue. Veins in the pulmonary circuit are red. So as I'm looking at it this way, this is going to be, we talked about the little auricles, the little ears. These are the little ears on either side here. Right? Now I'm trying to get this off of here. Through. Again, this is going to be, we can see as it starts to branch, this is going to be the pulmonary trunk. Right? As it comes out, it's going to branch over there. This is going to be, and it looks like I've cut the left subclavian a little bit, but let me work on this just for a second. All right, so I'm going to go like this. Sure my fingers are out of the way because I want to dissect the cat, not me. If I take this, start trying to get a hold of that, I should be able to start getting some of this off of here. I know at this point you're like, what am I watching? If I can get this, come on, don't get that way for me. It's hard to grab some of this stuff. So anyway, just trying to show you the arterial. There goes one of them. All right. And then I'm going to take this. I almost got myself there. Almost got myself. Let's see. This stuff's pretty doggone tough. Again, these are the arteries have such amazingly tough tunics. It is just crazy. Like I said, even with scalpels, it's hard to get these guys free. All right, come on. I think I've had about enough fun of that. Anyway, just trying to show you the arteries, and then I'm not going to do the same, but this is the superior vena cava as it's coming in. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and see, right, so right through here I can feel a ridge. That's the interventricular sulcus. That's going to be where the interventricular septum is. So I know that the two atrium are over here, the two ventricles are down here, and the way they're set up, they're kind of spiral. So that's why when the heart pumps, it kind of twists inside that little cavity. It's because it's a little spiral. So I'm going to cut this off right now. I want to kind of get that out of the way. Now, so if I take this, I'm going to try to cut through this way. And it's filled with that fluid. So what's going to, are the dye. So what's going to happen is it's really, really tough inside of here. Now I've cut through. You can see the arteries, the left versus the right side. I'm going to try to get a little bit more in here. I'm hoping I don't mess up, which I might have, but you can see this is a papillary muscle. These are going to be chordae tendineae here. You can see it on this side as well. I'm going to try to take part of this out. And a lot of times these structures will stay, but sometimes they don't. If I can get this out. Now, as I'm pulling it out, you're going to start seeing in this area, I pulled it off. That's going to be, since this is red and this is the you can see it there. This is going to be the bicuspid or mitral valve that's on there. You can see the chordae tendineae as they have been taken off of here. All right. On this, you can kind of see it still right there. On this side, actually, I got a good one right here. So this, which is now, since we're looking at the right side of the heart, the deoxygenated side, I can remove that. This is part of the tricuspid valve. That's one of the cusps right there. So if I kind of take it like that, kind of wiggle it back and forth, that's one of the cusps. This that's right here, that is one of the chordae tendineae, which I might be mispronouncing, but I think you get the gist. If I pull this out, so now I've just pulled the pulmonary trunk through. Let me see if I can get that all the way out. Yep, I pulled it all the way out. So this is the pulmonary. Wait a minute. Yep, sorry, said the wrong thing. This is actually the superior vena cava, and as it comes through, it's going to come in. This would have been the atrium. But as I'm looking at this, and I flip it up this way, you can see the tricuspid valve right here. All right, this is the, or tricuspid, I am so sorry. This is the semilunar valve for the aorta. The aortic semilunar valve is right here, that little guy right there. All right, so again, this is going to be, well, you can see part of, this is the, again, this is the left side. This is the larger, more muscular wall. This is part of the, now this would be called the bicuspid or mitral valve. This is part of it. Again, this over here is part of the tricuspid, or, and then these will be called the chordae tendineae. And then again, the muscles that extend off the wall are called papillary muscles. And here is the semilunar valve for the pulmonary trunk. So it's the pulmonary semilunar valve. So that's the heart. Again, this is the aortic arch, right? Now, as we look at the lungs, again, the lungs are some, they're very strange the way they feel. They're very squishy kind of, but they're firm. So, you know, the cat looks like he's got seven lobes here. And again, it's attached to the back by way of a membrane. I'm not going to try to get that off of there. Well, actually, I am. And then we're going to look at the abdominal pelvic cavity. All right, so in dissection, there are certain times when we'll start having things that will get a little bit smelly, so to say, but that's when we get into the abdominal cavity, that gets into a little bit of some stuff that does have a little more of an aroma. Now, as I put this here, I'm going to take this and try to find a little, there we go. Now, what I'm going to try to do again, I want to try to get it to where you can see still the diaphragm. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to get down here, and I'm going to kind of pull this apart. Now, under normal circumstances, I would try to show you some of the muscles again here. These muscles, it always amazes me how thin the muscles are along this lateral wall, but you know, I think that I'll kind of skip that today. I'm going to get into here. And this is where you'll see some of the formaldehyde come out that's been used. Again. So, in the abdominal pelvic cavity, first I'm just going to show you, I mean, this again, I'm gonna pick them up. This is the diaphragm, makes a solid seal between the thoracic cavity and the abdominal pelvic cavity. And as your breathing happens for tidal volume, this gets contracted and flattens out, causes an increase of the volume in the thoracic cavity, which decreases the pressure, causing air to go in. Air always goes from high to low. When we go to breathe out, this just relaxes, it domes back up, and they got some elastic connective tissue and some surfactant, some surface tension that helps. But when this domes back up, it decreases the volume in here, which increases the pressure and makes this high, outside low. Everything moves from high concentration to low, so air is pushed out. So that's the diaphragm. Now, underneath the diaphragm, we see this really, really, really large organ. Cats have a much bigger liver than we have. Now, there's different ligaments in here, and I'm not going to go into each of them, but just kind of pointing a few things out. Now, in this one, in this particular cat, I can see that the gallbladder isn't as green as it normally is. In a cat, the gallbladder is going to peek its head out right here. So this little thing right here, that's the gallbladder. So I'm going to kind of move him out of the way. This is you can see the gallbladder again. Hopefully that shows up there. So if I take this, and I'm going to try to do this without doing too much damage to some of the other things, because I don't want to get, I'm going to kind of get it, I'm just going to, all right. So this is the gallbladder right there. This would be the common bile duct, or the cystic duct here, the common bile duct. As it joins, you'll see different ducts coming out of each of these lobes. But this is the liver for the cat. Again, remember that even without doing anything, you can see the gallbladder here, but you see it better when it's opened up in this area. Right? Now, this here is the spleen. Again, the spleen is a much bigger organ on the cat than for humans. The spleen, again, is a blood filter. It is a big lymph node basically for blood. And so it is in the upper left-hand quadrant, again, where the liver for us is in the upper right-hand quadrant. Now, I'm going to kind of try to move this out of the way, and then there's going to be some, this is going to be the omentum. So we have this, again, called an omentum. In my class, I generally refer to it as a fat curtain, and that's what it is. You can kind of see it. Again, I'll try to cut this away. It's going to be attached to the omentum, but I figure this way we can kind of see some of it a little better. So I'm removing the spleen of this cat. All right, so the spleen is there. So this, again, this is the omentum. It's going to attach basically to the lower border. This is the stomach here. It's a pretty large pouch here, this stomach. So the omentum covers that, and it hangs down. Now, we are not really familiar with what all it does as far as I am aware of, and I don't want to overstate anything. I haven't been really up on all of the latest stuff, but I know when I was in school, not everybody understood what the omentum was. So, or what it does, and I still don't think that we do really all that much. But anyway, this is the stomach right through here, and then you're going to see these intestines. But before I get to that, just want to raise this up a little bit and see if I can point out this structure here. This is the pancreas, and you can kind of see the makeup of it. It looks like it's kind of lobed. I always say it looks like, I was a comic book fan, so when I was growing up, I'd watch the Fantastic Four, and they had the Thing, and there was also The Rock, which was another one that was kind of the same thing. But you can see that in the pancreas is a very fragile tissue, so a lot of times in trying to show it, we end up tearing it apart. But this is it. It comes all the way down. We'll see. We won't see it in here, but in class we studied that as it comes down, it's going to join the common bile duct, and it's going to empty its contents into the duodenum, the first section of the small intestines. Now in a cat, the small intestines and the large intestines are kind of all one big thing. The small intestines are not near as large as they are, as long as they are for us. So this is the small intestines. The large intestines is, again, a little bit larger. But what I want to show is something called the mesentery. So the mesentery is this really, really durable membrane that holds the small intestines in place. Hopefully you can see this. Again, I will try to raise it up some. So this little area right here, and you can see you can see the arteries and veins, and even the lymphatic and nervous system structures extended in there. And what they do is they all extend from a little common place, and it holds the entire list of the small intestines in order. So I'm going to kind of cut through this right now. I don't want to cut into too much stuff. The small intestines can be a tough thing to deal with when cut. But I do want to get some of this out of the way so we can see a couple structures right now. All right, so as this is, and again, I'm going to kind of pick this up a little bit. Hopefully you can see. So this is going to be the kidney. I'm going to take the kidney out. We're going to look at the inside structures of it. But before I do, I just want to point out, and this is a female cat, this is the ovary. This is the ovary. This is going to be their fallopian tube. It's called a uterine horn. Cats do not have a uterus. I'm going to see, there's the other one right here, the other ovary. Kittens will develop inside the uterine horn. All right, so this structure, and I'm going to kind of go through and remove it. And it's got strong ligaments that hold it in place. I'm cutting it off, but so this is the ovary, all right, and the uterine tube or uterine horn, as it is for the cat. So now, in our abdominal pelvic cavity, remember, most structures are going to be surrounded by this dual membrane that we call the peritoneum. But the kidneys are generally listed as retroperitoneal, which means they do not take part in it, they actually go behind it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm trying to get some of this adipose tissue out of the way so we can kind of see it before I start removing it. Obviously you can see a little bit of the renal vein there. Now the kidney, like I said, does not take part in the peritoneal protection, but it does. Oh, and now I wanted to show one thing before I got there. This is the adrenal gland. Let me see on this side if you can kind of see it. If I remove these guys, it's that little right there. But anyway, I can't really see it. But I'm going to try to get as much have I already taken? So we've got the ureter. I think I accidentally oh no, it's underneath. Remember I said that the tunics kind of hide the arteries, so I think that's the artery there. Now, I've already taken a large amount of adipose tissue. It's got a very big fat capsule around it, but then we have the renal capsule. Now, a lot of times we don't get too far into the renal capsule in our models because it's hard to see, and we end up getting more involved in the internal structures, but I'm going to try to show you. All right, there we go. Again, it's like a little Easter egg as it comes off of there. Now you're going to see a lot of blood vessels on here because, again, there's a lot of blood that comes through here. Remember in class we said on average the human is going to have 180 liters of fluid go through their kidneys every 24 hours. So you can kind of see, again, as the blood vessels work their way, and now this is going to be working its way back down to the renal vein. But you'll see how the kidney tries to get the blood up to the nephrons, which are in the cortex. Now again, I'm gonna go ahead and sacrifice this guy a little bit, but you can see I've got the artery and vein, and then the ureter as it's exiting. I'm just going to, well, you know what? I think it's better if I try on this guy just to do open them up. Now, in class, it makes it look like the little pyramids are super easy to see. I'm hoping that, and again, it's not really great light. Try to get it where I can see as much light as possible. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a distinct line right through here where it's very rough up here. That's the renal cortex. It's smooth in here. That's the renal medulla. You can see this little opening. This would be the renal pelvis. If I extended it, that would be just an extension of the ureter as it is leaving. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to separate one of these lobes. And you'll see, I tore that one up. See, there is a again, you can kind of see on the outer layer there are the blood vessels. If I was to pull on this, come on, there's one, doggone it. Well, I kind of tore it up a little bit, but let me see if I can work on this one, get a little better angle at it. You kind of see, again, there are these little lobes, and you can see now as I pull it apart, right, this is getting down into the renal pelvis. You'll see that there's little lobes. There's one of them. I'm just pulling it off right now. You can kind of see that. That's the renal pyramid. So the blood comes in. It's going to work its way through the renal columns up to the renal cortex up here where the nephrons are. It goes through this little filtering station. The majority of the plasma gets filtered out in what we call filtrate, and then it goes through a long tube, and we have a give and take called renal secretion or tubular secretion and tubular reabsorption. Most of the fluid and a lot of the things that have been filtered get reabsorbed and back into the bloodstream, but the things that we need to get rid of, and a lot of water comes in, it'll work its way through collecting ducts, which again are going to run through these little renal pyramids, go into a minor calyx, a major calyx, and then into this, which is called the renal pelvis, and then out on this long tube called the ureter, which will come and collect it into this, which is called the urinary bladder. And that is the dissection. I'm sorry that it is a little bit dirty here, but I hope that you learned a little something. Take care and have a great day.